Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? It doesn't look like, I think everyone can hear me. In the
We
chat,
can hear
everyone
you.
can hear me?
I think so.
All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to the 12 Beers of Christmas craft beer experience presented by Brewvana. My name is Brian. I'm going to be your host for the next 11 nights of streams here on the internet. I'm going to be joined by a variety of co-hosts and wonderful guests. Tonight, I'm welcoming my good friend, Thom, as my co-host. Thom, how you doing? How was your Christmas?
It was pretty amazing. There was actually snow here in Oregon and Washington, so kind of had a white Christmas at the tail end of it, which is always a surprise, and it wasn't enough to cause havoc amongst the traffic here, so that's always a bonus.
I am very jealous. I had nothing but rain where I was for Christmas. How did everybody enjoy that Pilsner from Old Town last night? Our first beer to kick things off on the 12 Beers of Christmas this year. Throw it in the chat. We got the chat there, but before we get to the housekeeping and we get to what we're doing tonight, let's open our boxes and get into this second beer. I got my box right here. It seems like some people in the chat had already dug into their box and opened tonight's beer, and they're ready to drink this big Saison. All righty. As you could see from the title card and others in the chat, we have this wonderful, wonderful Naughty Elf Saison from our friends at 5440. Thom, you excited for this?
I am. This is going to be a great beer. I can already tell just from the smell, the notes that come along with a Belgian Saison, that this is going to be right up my alley. I love the Belgian beers, and Bolt is a good friend of mine at 5440. So I trust in Bolt in brewing this beer for sure. So let's get into drinking that bad boy.
Well, cheers, everybody, cheers. For the first night of stream, second night. Oh, that is wonderful. Belgian style Saison, 9.2% ABV, as some people have mentioned. As Thom mentioned, this is from 5440 out in, is it Washougal, Washington? Is that how you say that?
That is correct. Washougal, for sure. Wait, that's well done from an East Coaster. Sometimes it's pretty hard to say some of those Native American names out here that we name our cities after. So Washougal is a great one.
Well, I'm starting off on the right foot. I'm sure I will butcher some words throughout these next 11 nights. But let's get more into what we're doing here. We have the Q&A feature in the chat. So if you have questions for us, hit it up. We have a chat moderator in there checking on the chat and also checking in on those Qs, soliciting A's from us. Our chat moderator tonight is Ben. Ben, what's going on?
Not too much. I had a wonderful Christmas yesterday. I spent it eating turkey and watching football. Could not ask for more.
Wait, turkey?
Turkey, indeed. Beer brine turkey, in fact.
Oh, wow. Cool beans.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a positively polarizing meat choice for a Christmas time meal. I mean, you could have the roast ham, yeah. You have the roast beast as well, and anything is very good if you are a carnivore. It's easy to pair a lot of good beers with that, and I'm sure that that Pilsner from Old Town went well with that turkey.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, we brined the turkey in, I don't even remember how many ounces of Pilsner. It was a 21-pound bird. So it was quite the endeavor for two people.
Wow. That's a lot. Throw it in the chat. What is your meat of choice on Christmas for the holidays? Do you do the ham? Do you do the roast? Do you throw a curveball in there like Ben and cook a turkey, brined turkey? So let's, one of the things we want to do with this beer, since it's the first night of streams here, we want to break down this beer in what we would refer to as our 5-step formal beer appraisal. So I will start. We're going to look through the appearance of this beer. We're going to take a look at the aroma of the beer, the taste, the mouthfeel, and the finish. That's going to be our 5 steps to really assess this beer for a greater appreciation. You've already been doing it, but throw your thoughts up in the chat. We love to see it. People are remarking at how great and smooth this is for being so high in alcohol. Not a lot of sour, as some people are saying. Appearance, you can see pretty clear. Little cloudiness, that happens sometimes with Belgian beers. Certain Belgian yeast won't drop out the clarity as much in those beers, but still beautiful golden color, and could definitely cue us to some of the flavors that are going to come from the Saison. Thom, what do you think of the aroma?
Oh, it is, I get both clove and bubblegum in this. It is exactly what I would expect in a Belgian style beer. The smell just adds to that taste. It's that double sensory feel that really makes this a quality beer, just from what I can see. And you know, well, I mean, we'll probably move into like the mouthfeel and so forth next. It's very bubbly as well. So yeah, that percolating with those smells and flavors, I mean, that's a 3 sensory winner right there for me.
3 sensory winner. Yeah, definitely. I think I get a lot of bubblegum in the aroma, and that carries through to the flavor of the beer. And then that carbonation, that bubbliness really just makes those flavors pop through the mouthfeel. You could feel it almost like percolating on your tongue as you let it sit. George says it smells like bubblegum and clove. That's a perfect description of this. I get a little floral too. And the descriptor, don't forget about, oh no, I can't find my handy card that came inside. We have handy cards in there for every one of our beers. And the descriptor for this beer mentioned notes of cedar. There is a little bit of wood in the background. And Ben says we have 2 questions so far, one about the selection process for 12 beers and one about how to determine appropriate glassware. We're going to get to those in a second. One thing I do want to mention, with the chat feature, make sure you go down into the drop down and select everyone when you're sending your messages. Right now, a lot of people are just using hosts and panelists. We're seeing that, but if you want everybody to see your messages and get involved in that communal chat, that will help you do that. So one thing we do need to talk about with this beer before we move on to those questions, Thom, is the finish. What happens at the end of the taste of this beer? What are you getting out of the finish? What lingers?
What sticks to my tongue there? I get a lot of the bubblegum still sticking there. I do get that on about the mid part of my tongue. This beer seems to go down over the gullet pretty quickly for me. So that sensation you get it gets at the beginning of the tongue rather than coating it and holding on the whole way.
Yeah, it doesn't stick, doesn't linger around for too long. That bubble gum definitely stays. I get that clove that stays around, but it makes you want to have another sip. Throw it in the chat. A lot of people are asking where everybody is from all over the country. People repping in from Dennis in Harrisburg, Rich in Lancaster, South Carolina. It's probably Lancaster, one of the two. It's different here in PA. I'm calling in from Pittsburgh. I'm hosting from Pittsburgh today. Thom, did you tell us where you're coming to us from?
No, I'm coming from Vancouver, Washington, right across the river from Portland, Oregon. So, right by where this beer is made, not too far away, stone's throw away from this beer.
Wow. West Palm Beach, Florida, Napa, California, South Hadley, Massachusetts, Tallahassee, Florida, Long Island, Moore, Massachusetts, Houston, Texas. People are calling in from or joining us from all over the country tonight. Great stuff.
We've got a really good mix of the country here. Denver, Colorado, Seattle, Wasco, Oregon. That's right in the middle of everything out here. We got a little bit of everything, so that's good. I love to see that we have such participation from sea to shining sea here with that, and people getting some really good getting a good opportunity to taste some different beers from all across the U.S. with this box this time.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure. We do have a guest joining us tonight. We're going to get to him in just 1 second here, but I want to tackle one of these questions we have here. and it's involved with what Thom does. JD0404 asked, how are the 12 beers selected every year? Describe the process. Thom, you're involved in that. You want to describe how we go about putting these beer together real quickly before I jump in with Andrew here?
Absolutely. So the first thing we want to do when we're selecting this box is a variety of places throughout the US. So we try and get East Coast representation, West Coast representation, the Midwest, and even the central area. We try and get as many different places so that we can give you a lot of what we do on our Brews Less Traveled boxes that we do. We're trying to take you around and find those hidden, undiscovered, yes, Brubana, all the way, baby. Hidden, undiscovered, great beer cities that not everybody always knows about. So we do try and do that variety from the entire region all the regions across the US. The next thing that we try and select is a variety of different beers. We're not going to give you an all IPA pack. We're not going to give you all yellow beers. We're going to try and give you a different experience every night and have a little bit of overlap here and there. Maybe we'll have, you're going to find out as we move through this box that we have some things that are very similar, some things that are very disparate. And the biggest thing we want to do is give people an opportunity to taste beers they may not taste in their region. And so we really try and hone in and specifically find things that you might not get at your local corner store or whatnot. We want you guys to be very much enamored with these beers, so you can go and maybe find them somewhere nearby, maybe at a local brewery. That's what we do. We've been doing this for 12, 13 years as far as doing brewery tours and so forth, and we want to bring that craft beer taste to everyone.
Yes, lots of variety for everybody. We're only 2 beers in. Throw it in the chat. What styles are you hoping to see over these next 10 nights? We've gotten a Pilsner so far. We've got a Belgian style Saison, but we have 10 more beers to get through. So there's going to be a lot of styles. Steve said he wants to see sours. Emily wants to see IPAs. Mackenzie, stouts, more IPAs, porters. I think you will all be pleasantly surprised as we pop open more panels from our boxes. But we've been talking for a while here. Without further ado, let's get to our guest. Welcome our guest on. We want to talk about beer tonight. So we wanted to have somebody on that had achieved what they call a certified Cicerone certification. And the Cicerone program is basically the sommeliers for beer. They are the best tasters, the best analyzers. They know everything there is about beer, and they have multiple levels of certification, 4 levels to be exact, that test everything from tasting beer to distributing beer to brewing beer. And we're happy tonight to welcome our good friend, Andrew Smith, who is a certified Cicerone. Andrew, how you doing tonight? How was your Christmas?
Hey guys, great. Rainy like yours. NBR, nothing but rain. We got a little snow, but it was like early in the morning. Hey everybody. I hope people had good Christmases. I did. How about you guys? You said it. You had a good one. You did. Yeah. It
was good.
It's just rainy.
I asked for coffee, and I am questioning how long it's going to take me to drink all the coffee I was given. It's very nice, but
wow.
Very excited.
Yeah. I had a coffee subscription the last year and a half. I've been doing like the beers that everybody has here, those kind of gifts that keep on giving. I love it. It's always a good way to go. So you get, different coffees from around the place, just like you guys are sending out different beers. So you can there's multiple things out there that you can be doing.
Multiple subscriptions,
all sorts of subscriptions these days.
12 coffees of Christmas coming next year.
Nice.
No problem.
See, there you go. We're coming up with ideas right here.
So we talked about coffee. Let's get into some beers. Andrew, we like to ask a lot of people how they got their start in craft beer. So what is kind of your origin with falling in love with craft beer?
Yeah, I going back to college, of course, I think like a lot of folks, and maybe even a little bit before that. My parents aren't on this call, so I can probably throw that out there. But yeah, I liked good beer in high school. Like, then I went to college, and we had a great craft beer store right near my campus and I got, the guy was getting me into all different Belgians and stuff that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Worked in a number of restaurants. After starting with City Brew Tours, I've been working with that, this outfit, the tourism portion for 5.5 years. Is when I started 5.5 years ago, 5 years in July. And from there, I was just getting into learning all about it. And the Cicerone test was sort of like a pinnacle for me about just, going back and really like finding, trying to like learn as much as I possibly could, cram it into my head, and then be able to like tell people, hey, I'm sort of a beer expert, there's really no such thing at the end of the day, but being able to at least like, bring that across to people.
I should jump in here. It's been mentioned a couple times. We've said the 12 Beers of Christmas is presented by Brewvana. We've mentioned a couple of our sister companies. Our sister company, City Brew Tours, does all-inclusive educational craft beer experiences in 15 cities across North America. And Andrew and I have both done tours, and Thom as well, and Ben. Everybody on this, I should have just said, all four of us have done tours for City Brew Tours in the past. And Andrew, I would like to pat you on the back a little bit. This is my favorite fact to tell about you. I have fun facts about all my friends that I keep in my head. No, that's creepy and weird. No, 1 year, Andrew legitimately ran 10% of all the tours ran in our company. He ran 230 tours. There was 2,300 tours.
The number goes up every time. It was like just over 200. The number goes up every time I hear it. It was just over 200.
It's like a fishing store.
Next year, you bring me back next year, it'll be 300. It'll be great.
A tour a day. Tour a day. Andrew did a tour a day.
It was not
if not more.
Oh man, I was distracted a moment ago. I was trying to talk about this chat is wild. There's a lot going on. Some guy named Mike, two guys named Mike are just all over me here. I don't even know who they are, but I just want to shout them out because, I don't think they're going to stop until I do. There you go. It's this 9.2% Saison we all have in front of us, which I have the same one. I mean, I got the beer tonight, which is great.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Very cool can. Very nice can.
Speaking of 9.2%, there is a question in the chat about ABV and what it would take to like lower the ABV, because people apparently want to walk after they drink these beers. I, for one, like the high ABV, but both Brian, you have your brewing history. Andrew, the Cicerone, probably has done a little bit of brewing throughout his life.
Done a little bit of brewing,
Yeah, I think we've all done a little bit, but you two are probably more of the experts in this. What do you think about those things?
Yeah, in terms of ABV, I mean, you're talking about less ingredients. Sugar gets eaten by yeast; it gets turned into alcohol. So essentially, if you have less sugar to start with from grain, right, one of the main ingredients there, you're going to end up with lower ABV. And so, what's so cool is historically, like, this is the kind of thing with Cicerone. Like, you also learn a lot about the histories of beer, and saisons would have been from Belgium. They would have been drank by farmers, like brewed in the cold months, drank all summer long. And they're out in the fields drinking this stuff. They're not drinking 9.2% beers out in the fields. They were drinking like 2% stuff, right? Hydrating beers all summer long. But now the style has evolved for more modern markets, and it's usually about 5 to 7. Very rarely do I see something up in this range. And this is so cool too, because there's so much flavor going on because of that. Mm-hmm. So it's a really interesting beer. But yeah, it's not like you can't just lower the ABV once you have it. I mean, you can't just add water, you're going to ruin beer.
Yeah. And Larry specifically asked, like, what, if anything, would be lost flavor-wise by reducing the alcohol content? And you could get a beer with similar flavors, but they wouldn't pop the same way. You wouldn't have that big body in the middle of the taste to really carry those flavors through to the finish. A lot of times you wouldn't get as aggressive of the yeast character, that bubblegum and clove flavor, because as those yeast are fermenting all that sugar and acting in a really stressful high alcohol environment, they're really prone to push off those bubblegum and clove and really expressive fermentation flavors. So you could get a beer with the similar flavors, but they would just almost be a little tampered down. Higher the alcohol, the higher the flavors typically, or the higher the flavors pop, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah, this beer, the yeast character of this beer is just really, it's doing so much work with eating that sugar that the output, because of this interesting, Belgian style yeast here, is so cool. I mean, the bubblegum thing comes through all across. I get a little isoamyl acetate. It's like a chemical. It's called, like, if I really huff this stuff, I'm getting some banana like smell on mine at least, and maybe on other people, in addition to the clove and the bubblegum that I've been hearing all about. But it's really, really nice, like really pleasant, like good fruity esters. And you don't get that without that yeast having all that sugar to eat, all that work
to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So another thing that goes along with this, as far as like in this, to tag on to another question in the chat there, it's the type of glassware that you use. Why would we use a different glass rather than, Andrew, I would say, is probably not using the best glass for this.
Not at all. I'm in the
straight up and down shaker pint, right?
I'm in the complete wrong glassware, and I know a lot of my stuff is packed away. I'm driving cross country this week, so for a few months. But Brian's glassware is perfect, I think. Right? You have a tulip, right? Did I see that? And yeah, see, I think that's correct. I would say that's definitely correct, because there's so much carbonation in Belgian beers. That little straight at the end of the glass like helps to support the head, the foam, so you get all those nice aromas. Also focuses the nose a little bit into the to your nose. Focuses the nice. So that's great. Also, it's a boozy beer, so you want a smaller glass than a full out pint. Although we you were sent a pint, so you're gonna have to
drink
regulate yourself tonight.
If you want to shotgun it, we're not going to stop it.
Don't do that.
Probably take your time.
No, don't do
Pour
that.
In a glass. Appreciate it.
Pour it in a glass.
So Andrew, we mentioned you're a certified Cicerone. Do you want to go more into the process of what it took to become a certified Cicerone?
Yeah. Certified Cicerone is about a 5-6 hour long tasting and written exam. Written first, tasting second. 100-something questions. Hey, there's a beer with an SRM. That means like basically the color of the beer, like 6-ish, and IBUs, right? How hoppy a beer is, of 10 to 20, something like that. And maybe it's got a lot of like bubble gum and clove flavor. What beer is that? Everybody on this Zoom tonight and this video should know. They should know on what that is. It's a saison. But then you might have questions that are essay questions about the history of different beers, and longer essays about the beer and food pairings. You have to know about that. You have to know about how beer is served and how kegs are kept and that sort of stuff. And then finally, you get to taste beers. And so they'll just line up beers in front of you. Here's a beer. Is it this or is it that? Is this beer a saison or is this beer a pale ale? It's usually a little harder than that. It's much harder.
It sounds like it's easy, but when you have no context to the beers,
it's not, and there's no context. No,
it's wild what you will mislabel or misguess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think one I had was like, is this a stout or a foreign extra stout? I mean, Guinness makes the like classic of both of those. So it's definitely Guinness, but it's like, you had to figure out which one it was, and everyone knows Guinness until you're like, have that in front of you and it's dark and you don't, you're not sure. And I think I got that one right, but I'm just saying like a lot of you could trip and fall on a lot of these.
Yeah.
So then, there's tasting stuff. You're tasting off flavors. So you have to tell what's wrong. They give you a beer. What's wrong with this beer?
Yeah.
The reason is for this is like, you have to be able to stand maybe behind a beer, like a really great craft beer bar, and someone says, hey, this doesn't taste right, hands it back to you, and you say, you smell it, you just say, yeah, it does. I mean, that kind of thing. Or it doesn't, here's why. And then you have to know why, and you have to know how to fix it. Or what's wrong. So it's a really cool certification,
Yeah.
And again, like sommelier of beer, it's a good way to put it.
So speaking of which, one of the things that you mentioned was pairing food with beer. We got a lot of comments in the chat about how well the candy canes that came along with this beer are pairing because of the sweetness, probably. What other foods, Andrew, would you think pairing with this particular beer would go well?
This is so tough. It's so fruity, that for me, I mean, Saisons have like traditional pairings, right? The official, like by the book pairing, because often there'll be like a peppery and stuff, and they, you know, or phenolic, like they'll have different like herby, spicy kind of things. They can go with salads and lighter foods, right? But to me, this beer, because of the high ABV, the sweetness on that, the real bubblegummy flavor, like it feels more like a dessert, like a fruitier dessert beer. Again, you want to look at like beer pairing with food. The main thing to focus on is like, well, what does this beer taste like? Well, what does that food go with? Obviously, bubblegum doesn't go with a lot of foods, right? So that kind of is a little tricky, but what else is in there? You know, clove, some of the sweetness. Again, I'm getting like a little bit ester, like fruity esters, like banana. But again, bubblegum, you know, desserty kind of things. I mean, that's where I would go with just for this particular beer. But that's not like the Saison pairing, you know.
It's an interesting beer though, because you could almost 9.5% alcohol. You could really bring some big, bold dishes up against a beer like this and almost have that bubblegum take a back seat and pull out more of that clove and more of like the malty taste that's in the background of this beer, and really have some beautiful things happen that you might not expect when you paired it with something like, I don't know, a roast, like we were talking about with Christmas Eve or Christmas night dinner.
Yeah, that would be wild. I actually do think this candy cane kind of, it is kind of interesting rolling with it. Mm-hmm. The mintiness, but again, the mint is going to always like knock out some of your palate. I like what people are saying in here. I mean, some of the ginger, but the bread pudding, to me, that kind of makes sense.
Duck breast with berry sauce.
With berry sauce. You know, interesting. Yeah. Again, I think the cheese pairings that that's Ben. Yeah, Ben knows this stuff.
Yeah,
those are great.
And Brie recommendations.
Yeah. Like Camembert Brie. Yeah, I didn't read the names. I didn't realize. I'm like, oh well, he's a smart guy who knows this stuff.
A lot of what you're seeing though too is a lot of similar or opposite, right? And when you're pairing food with beer, those are really the two sort of categories that you're pulling against those things, right? You're bringing in things that either will intensify the flavor or blend in with the flavor, and either way, you're gonna get something great out of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and sorry.
So I was just gonna say it's so subjective, you know, pairings. There's no right answers to pairings. It's
that's the problem. That's what I was saying is a lot of times there's some like, you know, as long as you can justify it, find what flavors work together, resonate together, or, you know, and they're not clashing, then that's exactly it, you know, and what tastes good to you. Because at the end of the day, it's in your glass, you know, it has to taste right to you.
Yeah. People are saying spicy Asian dishes, pork tenderloin, gingerbread cookie.
Yeah, I keep seeing a lot of the ginger stuff, and that makes sense to me, you know. But again, like things like a banana cream pie makes sense to me too. Again, because that's what I'm getting on a lot of this beer, and those are the kind of estery notes that I like.
Real quick, I wanted to jump in with an answer to Daniel's question in the Q&A section. Remember to use that feature, folks. People have been hitting it up with good cues already, asking what kind of yeast was used to ferment this beer. We can't be certain. There's lots of different types of yeast strains out there, but undoubtedly it is some type of Belgian yeast strain. And a lot of times you'll hear Belgian Saison, French Saison. Andrew, you want to talk about real quickly the difference between Belgian Saison and French Saison, what you could expect from those different beers?
Yeah, I mean, French Saison, well, so they're both from like this region that was sort of like Belgium and France, and they've sort of split. Yeah. They get a little drier in France, and often there's also like a Bière de Garde, which is a similar style that like they tend to make in France a little bit more, and they'll call it that because at the end of the day, the brewer can kind of call it whatever they want, right? They can call it whatever they want. You'll notice on this one that you have, it's called a Belgian style Saison. Right? It's not a Belgian Saison. Why? Because it's not made in Belgium. So they're not going to claim it was. They're going to give it that, you know, they're going to pay deference to that country and not claim to be something they're not. But that Belgian style, it's going to have this fruitiness, right? It's going to have these ester notes. It's going to be that high kind of like 9%. You know, it's got a lot of sweetness to it. French stuff's going to be a little drier. It's like champagne.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
this is just sparkling Saison. That's not correct. It's not a thing. I don't know what that. I don't know where I was going with that one.
Well, Mike Croco, he's been raising his hand asking for us to acknowledge us, and he just said he had to leave. So we were just gonna bring him.
I already shouted out Mike earlier. I shouted out Mike right when I came on because he was really going
giving it
hard on the chat. I don't know. I'm trying to see who else. Yeah, who else is out there? They're chattering. Hopefully, maybe my brother-in-law TJ's out there. I gave him a beer box as a Christmas present, so it was great. Can't go wrong, folks. Some of you probably received this as a Christmas present. Some of you probably gave it and then got one for yourself, like I did.
Great question. Yeah, who in the chat? Who got these as gifts?
Who got these as a gift?
No. Who just wandered into here because they somehow found this link? Tell us. We won't kick you out.
No, don't do it.
I see Brian's asking if we ever mix in anything international. Usually no. Our mission here is basically craft beer in America. There are hurdles to getting beer from other countries to us to ship those out. So we tend to stick with breweries that we find within the contiguous 48 down below. We could go Hawaii, we could go Alaska, but those also would raise the price of the beer box for you. So we're trying to make sure that it's something that's easily attainable to everyone, yet also a great, what's the word? I've been drinking too much of this beer already. Representation of the U.S. With that. So a lot of the craft beer movement actually was based on knocking off some of those imports. A lot of those imports come in and they're a year old or whatnot. So we're trying to get that fresh stuff here and making it here on our own. And that's what a lot of what we try to do with craft beer is to take over that import market. Except we've done a really good job at knocking off some of the big boys as well. We've taken a lot of more market share than we thought we were going to be. So here's to our craft brewers in finding their niche and going beyond it. So cheers to them.
Cheers. Alex in the Q&A asked, is this can label from the brewery or one that Bruvana made? We certainly did not make this. We have really cool graphic design people and great social media people that took the photos that you'll see throughout these weeks. But no, this is wonderful art from 5440. If you ever see any of their other cans, they have there's a style to them. A 5440 can when you see them. Our other sister company that we have yet to plug yet, Unboxed Experiences, uses a lot of beer from 5440 for our awesome beer and cheese boxes. So check out those. The Kolsch makes it into a lot of boxes, has a very similar looking can, and definitely is one of my favorite beers.
There's a whole process to getting beer labels made, and it involves the government. So you have to get them through the TTB, which
federally approved,
not up our alley. So we leave the brewers up to that, and they want to represent their beers in the best way possible as well. So they usually take over the whole labeling of all cans for us.
So Andrew, you're here tonight as a beer lover, but you mentioned something that you're taking a cross-country trip, and I think this might have something to do with the next question that I have for you. You are an actor. You are pursuing a master's in screenwriting.
Yeah, back in school.
Yeah, back in school. So I did some digging. I found your website, your resume, and I'm not going to show your headshot or anything, but I saw that you were in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Spider Donuts.
I did a Spider Donuts commercial a few years back. This is true. That might be an old resume.
How many takes did you have to do of eating the donut? And do you now hate Spider Donuts?
It was a lot, and I bought one this year, and I didn't finish it. Just for nostalgic purposes, but it was a lot. I had to eat a lot of I had to keep eating the donuts. That's exactly how that works. I had to eat the all day, for an entire afternoon. I had to eat the donuts.
Do they use spiders in these donuts, or is this a Spider-Man time?
Oh, it's so I'm from Boston, land of the Dunkin'. So I don't know what they have out there, but it's for Halloween. It's a donut. but in the middle of the donut is a brown a donut hole, like a munchkin. Yeah, and then it has little legs coming out of that. And so it looks like a spider. It's got eyes on it. Yeah. They paint the eyes on it. Everything's edible. I did do that.
I would hope not made of spiders.
Not made of spiders. No, the donut's not made of spiders. Very low protein, sadly. The spiders would have
almost no spiders.
No, almost no spiders.
Almost no spiders. There's an acceptable amount of spider parts in anything that we eat in the U.S. Somewhere, definitely.
I didn't know that was true. I have to ask the TTB on what the limit of spider parts in beer is. I bet it's quite low. I hope. Well, I've just ruined the other chat, 10 nights of beers.
Speaking of things, Matt Jensen says it's from 5440 or Fight about Canada. This is correct. That's where the name of the brewery came from. 5440 is the latitude that the U.S. Basically drew the line at, and that's where we stuck. And that's also why I believe that we have a peaceful agreement with our Canadian brethren to the north, because they chose not to fight with that. So
that's the fun fact that's on the back of your cards inside of your slot with your beer tonight. Every one of your cards will have a beer description and a fun fact on the back.
Fun fact.
Yes.
Is that what I have? Oh, that's something else. I didn't see that yet. Wow. We have a lot of questions in here. I'm going to rapidly answer some of these questions.
You want to do a rapid
Stephen
fire?
even corrected me there. That's correct.
The 49 parallel.
Yes, I'm not an expert in this, apparently. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for checking me and keeping me properly. It's the beer. It's the 9% beer that I'm drinking.
Andrew, speed round.
Speed round. We had some questions in here. Mike was asking what steps I took to reach the Cicerone level. It's a lot of studying, hours and hours and hours and hours of studying, learning about beer, going to breweries, checking them out, drinking beer, tasting everything you possibly can. It's hard work. Matt Jensen said, what do you think is the best city for craft brewery tours? It's obviously Boston, because that's where I live. Moving on. How many of you hosts are home? No. It's a rapid question. You can't get in. It's not possible. Daniel asked how many of us are home brewers. We all home brewed. We all brew beer at home in our house. Absolutely. Brian probably does it the most. He's also probably the best at it. I
have a
out of the four of us.
I do not.
But of this crew. Yeah, but of this group.
Although Ben might be close behind. He is. I drank one of Ben's beers just about a month ago, and it was his first beer that he brewed, and it was actually very crisp. It was a pale ale that Brewvana sells, and he did a really good job with it. So I'm pretty impressed at how easily he jumped right in, but not surprisingly, because Ben is very knowledgeable in beer as a whole. So yeah.
Dennis Deschamps asked, how about including brews from Canada? Well, we got into that. I think we answered that one, right? Because we had same deal. They're an international. They're another country, so they counted
across. Yeah.
Yes.
Bob 30 on the bottom of the can. Oh, crisp Kringle. Is that what it says on the bottom of the can? Mine doesn't have it, but oftentimes they'll stamp stuff, and that's like their sort of secret name for it. The date they'll put, when they created it, that kind of stuff. But then they'll call it something else. He says a local brewery in Westchester, Pennsylvania, home of QVC. Is that where? Fun fact. They had a big week on that last week. They're big around the holidays.
To expand, that's just a date coder. Some of them have the capabilities to write things, and some of them just put the dates on them. And brewers
are Easter egg,
and they're going to put kooky stuff on there.
It will tell you when the beer was made. Sometimes in that calendar, I forget, what's it called? Where a Julian date, maybe, where they give it a number. Yeah, so they'll give it a number rather than it wouldn't say 12, 26, 21 or something. It will say, well, what day of the year is this? 360th? It'll say 360, 21.
Sure.
Is that what it is? It's either 359 or 3. I can't do that.
I don't know. Somebody type it into Google, throw it in chat. Westchester, home of Levante Brewing. Wonderful people.
Oh, man. All grain is real tough.
Area.
Oh, yes. The Rich asked, when we homebrew all grain is tough. You need a whole other setup. I don't do as big enough setup as that. So I use a mixture, like I basically do. It's a hybrid, part of that. Brewing bag. You can also do brewing bag. Someone's putting that out, and that's something really that we. Easy. And that's something else we can plug is more stuff to plug. Plug it, Brian.
Yes, we do live home brewing through Brewvana. I'm gonna get. I'll get to. We'll wrap up with plugs. Brewvana.com. Check it out if you want homebrew stuff, but we'll do plugs at the end. I'm gonna hit you with one more here, and I want Thom to answer this one too. Top 3 styles of beer you enjoy, and top 3 styles of beer you do not enjoy. Please do not name specific beers. Just throw out styles. We don't need to hate on specific breweries. Andrew.
I'm not gonna. Yeah. Personally, I really like classic older styles of beer. I love when there's just a really good German dark German lager. Right. I think I'd also in that same vein is again like things that are like me, like Vienna lagers. Right. Love those kind of beers. I do also really like saisons. I usually like the lighter saisons, but this one's fantastic too. So can't really knock that. So I would say probably those. If I had to pick 3 that I don't drink a lot, I guess I don't drink a lot of West Coast IPAs. Okay. And there's nothing wrong. Like I'm not hating on them because we make them in the East Coast as well. It has nothing to do with that. It's more the hoppiness, right? The crazy hop stuff. New England has some great New England IPAs, but they make that everywhere as well. Those are super popular. But I don't go for a lot of IPAs anymore. I've just had like IPA fatigue, and it's pushed me sort of post that big thing. I think that's probably enough.
Cool. Thom?
So I am a big fan of big Belgian beers. That's probably like, depending on the night. Because honestly, my answer is whatever beer is in front of me is usually the beer that I like the most. But if I'm gravitating towards something and I want something boozy, I'm going for a big Belgian, like a quad, or something that has a lot of what is in this particular beer tonight. So I'm very glad that I'm a part of this tonight. Second, I would say that I gravitate towards now is a lot of yellow beer. So if it comes from
yellow fizzy beer.
Yeah, no, I mean, but craft style, like something that comes from Germany, whether it's a Helles or a Pilsner or whatnot, something that's been made with really good, great ingredients. Those ones that you just drink and they go right over the tongue and down the throat. Those are pretty amazing. I definitely love like the Pilsner that we just drank last night and those sorts of things. So that sort of like overall encompassing group. So your standard lagers that are made typically, and including some more dark lagers as well. Like if we're going inexpensive, I love a great Modelo Negra, something with a little bit of character to it. And then finally, I love a West Coast IPA. Obviously, I live on the West Coast. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if it's dank and it smells like the woods, I'm going to drink it. And I'm going to probably drink, if I'm drinking a session of beers, I'm going to do one of each of those. It's kind of that whole spectrum.
Now, it's nice to hear what you like, but everybody really, really wants to hear what you don't.
Yeah. So I will go, and unfortunately, I just saw this in the chat. I am not a brown beer fan. Browns are not in my wheelhouse. They taste like dirt to me. So no. I don't tend towards those. But that's really, man, I guess there are some, I'm tired of the New England IPA style. I like being able to see through my beer. I will enjoy a New England IPA, but when I travel, so I live on the West Coast, I travel to work in Boston and the rest of and that sort of stuff. Whenever I go there, I just die for a West Coast IPA. I'm just like, sometimes I can do a couple juice bombs, but then after that, I want something that's like going to destroy my palate. I want something that I'm not going to taste anything but hops afterwards. And so there's that. And then finally, I would say for a third that man, I don't know if I have a third. I those are the two styles I totally like.
Well,
if
fine.
I have like an adverse reaction to, those are the two that I usually do. But I don't know. I would say just something that's undercarbonated. I do like my beer kind of very cold and very bubbly, which is very American. So when I was in Great Britain for a couple of years back and forth, I visited. I was a little bit. I had to go to the stouts when that happened because that's what I expect from a stout.
I love that stuff. I love cask beer. That's like, it's not a style, but it's like a way of serving. That's like my favorite. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Living beer. The stuff's changing every night because
Throw
yours, in the fridge.
Throw your favorite and least favorite styles up in the chat, everybody, as we
got some good stuff.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in there already.
I'm reading through. I'm like, oh man, I wish I said that because I'm like, oh, I like that too. I'll
do mine real quick and then we'll move on. And I'm only doing mine because I'm vain and I would like to share my response. Lambic, Pilsner, New England IPA. Those are my three favorite styles. That's what I would go
Lambic.
And then not favorites. I just have two, and it's Scotch Ale and Hefeweizen. I just don't really care for Scotch Ale.
I'll never get a Hefeweizen either. I won't do it.
Do not like the banana thing with Hefeweizen. So
watch tomorrow be a Hefeweizen. Now that we've all said that, maybe you probably know what it is. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked, so I'm not going to sneak a peek. But it probably isn't. But I'm very worried.
No sneaking peeks. You have to wait until tomorrow.
I would never.
Night 3. As we begin to wrap up, Andrew, it's been a pleasure here. Do you have anything you want to plug? Would you like to plug your website so everybody else can watch the Dunkin' Donut?
No.
Please.
My name's Andrew Justin Smith. That's my acting and screenwriting name. My official legal name. That's about it. You can Google me.
Cool. Awesome.
Probably won't be me.
You can maybe see Andrew on a Unboxed experience.
I'm also there.
Cool.
This is true.
Thom, anything to plug?
Anything to plug? Well, I'm gonna reach out to Dennis Deschamps, if we're going French here. Why are East Coast beers featured more than West Coast? Well, I will say that there is an East Coast bias around the world for everything, but you will be surprised. There is plenty of West Coast that is coming in your future in this box. Don't you worry. We got a good representation from both coasts as well as the middle of the country. That's one thing. I'm going to jump through and see if there's anything else in this Q&A that I can jump on really quick. Do you have an online journal you use for beers? Everybody should use Untapped. That's pretty much the represent thing. And if you're drinking this beer, speaking of that, tag Brewvana, tag Brewvana Tours, where you're drinking it from. There's stuff like that where we have online contests that you might be able to be a part of just by doing that sort of thing. Let's see, anything.
Someone asked me if I was a full-time Cicerone, which unfortunately that is not a job, but it is a great certification for a job.
It's not like that scene. It's not like that scene on Parks and Rec where the guy gets offered the sommelier job for like $500,000 a year. But that doesn't exist in the
that doesn't exist for us. We don't get that. No, I'm an actor and a writer, and I have an amazing wife, Alana, who also works, so that lets me do everything.
You're gonna plug your
wife.
My amazing wife.
Cool.
I'm gonna plug John Cottle, who gave me a shout out at the Q&A. I hope Thom is with us every night. He speaks my language in all things beer. You'll just have to wait and see if that's the case.
Wow, that's pretty
John,
good.
You're my best friend. I'm glad I'm the only one who got a shout out in the Q&A. That's going to go along with my fantasy football victory that I'm going to take over Andrew next week.
I do play you next week
when we go in the championship game.
So that's going to be before we get into too much
fantasy football. We're off the rails.
Shit talking here. All right. Well, it's been a wonderful first live stream night. Wonderful second night of the 12 Beers of Christmas. For more, visit brewvana.com. Check out our live home brewing experiences there. Check out more subscription boxes from us. You can also check out our wonderful sister companies, City Brew Tours and Unboxed Experiences. Just Google those. You'll find them. They're on there. Check us out at Brewvana, at City Brew Tours, at Unboxed Experiences on Instagram. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel with another beer, another guest, and possibly the same co-host. You'll have to come back and find out. Good night, everyone. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
It's been fun, guys.
See you.